Today we're going to set up the HubSpot CRM for the Dunder Mifflin Scranton branch from the fictional show The Office. So to get started, I have a spreadsheet here, and this is going to contain our data that we're going to be importing into our HubSpot CRM database. We have email, first name and last name, which is going to identify our contacts. We have our company information, which is going to need our first name of the company and the website domain. We're going to have some deal information, what pipeline it's going into, a stage, an amount. We're also going to have some tickets for some complaints and things that have popped up through the show. And this is all as accurate as possible of data. And we're going to start with a new portal here. So I'm at HubSpot.com. I'm just going to get started for free. I'm going to run through this pretty quick, but you can also skip ahead if you would like. I'm going to make a new fresh account. We're going to say we're in the paper industry. And what this database is going to do is we're going to set up, all of our deals. And every time Jim makes a sale and every time, Dwight goes and makes a sale, they would be logging this sale in their system. Think of this as Dunder Mifflin Infinity 3.0. So let's put this in. We'll say we're 1,000 people. And each of these sales is then going to be attached to a contact. It's going to be attached to a company. And it's going to give, the entire organization a level of complexity and a level of sophistication that they probably didn't have during the show. We're going to set up some reports and look at the sales that we've made by salesperson. We're going to set up some automation so we can notify customer service teams. We're going to use, a bunch of these tools very quickly and see what things look like as we go. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is invite some team members. So I already have an email list back here on my Sheets tab. And I'm going to say, I'm going to download this set of email files just as a CSV. And over here in my HubSpot portal, I'm going to go to users and teams. I'm going to hit create user. And I'm going to import a CSV file right here. And this is going to let me put all of my Office team members in very quickly. If we had more time, I'd show you some of the permissions, but you could set these permissions up per person, let people see certain parts of the HubSpot tool. You can also set permissions and make sure people aren't emailing. Dwight's not taking over Jim's accounts unnecessarily. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So we've got all of these new people in, and now let's flip over to our contacts, and we're going to import all of this data that we have set up. So I'm going to go to this import tab. I'm going to start a new import. This is going to be a file from my computer. I'm going to do one file, but we are going to import, like I said, multiple objects. So this is going to be contacts, deals, companies, and tickets all in one fell swoop. We're going to associate these with one another. It's going to make our data on the back end beautiful. So once again, come back to my tab here. Oops, sorry about that. We're going to download as a CSV. And put this in our import file. Okay. And now HubSpot's going to ask us to match up all of these files. So when we're importing contact records, all of our contacts have properties on them. You can think of these like fields. So we've got our addresses, we've got our first names, we've got any other information we want to store about an individual. We also have our companies. We also have our deals. And the same thing applies. We've got specific information that we're storing for each of these components, each of these objects in the database. A contact can be associated with a company. A deal can be associated with a contact and a company. So we're keeping track of all this information, again, in a pretty sophisticated way that's going to give us a lot of transparency in our reporting, a lot of automation capabilities. So right now, this wants me to go through and identify some of these properties a little bit better. So we'll just run through. Again, you can skip ahead if this is familiar. So we've got email, map to email, first name, map to first name, and so on and so on. This company right here, we need to make sure this is a company property. Match company name. Perfect. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to say this is a company property for the website domain. And make sure this is the company domain name. Great. Deal category, we're actually going to make a new property for this. So this is a deal property, and we'll say let's make a new property. I'm just going to say this is deal information. We're going to leave it as open-ended text, but you could pick a different type if you wanted, and hit OK, create. All right, let's keep going. We have a close date. We want to make sure this is a deal property for the close date. There we go. Right here we have ticket status. We need to make sure that's the ticket status. That looks good. Ticket owner. We need a ticket pipeline. Here we go. Tickets pipeline. The complaint details. This is going to be our ticket description. There we go. Contact owners. We're going to make these the deal owner, but we're going to keep this as a deal owner. We've got our life cycle stage. All right. I think we are ready to hit next. I'm going to agree. I know my dates are formatted this way, and I will hit finish. All right, so while it's importing, well, again, what we're doing here is we're taking all this information from, throughout the show, all of these fictitious interactions that Michael and Dwight and Jim and Pam and Phyllis and Stanley are all having throughout the show. And we've actually created a line item for each one. So if we're looking here, we have Larry Myers with lminc.com. He's making a purchase of standard stock, of $50,000. This is the date from when the show aired. So we're importing all this information, and perfect, this is already here. So we've got 26 new rows. We're imported. We have 82 records, and it created 98 different associations for us. So let's go look at our deals on the sales section. So here are all of our sales that we imported. We can see they have associated contacts over here. We can see these amounts. We can see the deal owner. So I can come in and quickly filter and say, I want to look at the owners here. I'm going to look at only Dwight's deals. There we go. So there we go. I have this handful of deals for Dwight. These filters apply for any of that information that we just imported or any other information that we want to add in the future. That's where the CRM is pretty flexible and powerful. We can store anything we want along the way. So now this information is in. Let's just go click one here, like Stone & Sons. We can see who the contact is that's associated. We can see the primary company. If we click over to that, let's see what we get here. So on this side of things, we see that there's actually two contacts. There's the son and the father at this business, and they have two deals. They have two different purchases that were made on the same date there. So it looks like all that came in pretty well. The next thing we're going to do is actually activate some paid tools because we want to use this workflow feature. So I'm going to upgrade to Marketing Professional with a free 14-day trial. And that'll just take a second to jump in. Okay, let's go. I'm going to set up a quick automation so that every time we make a new sale, every time one of our sales guys out on the road makes a new sale, we're going to notify customer service that we have a new customer. So this is going to be a deal-based workflow. We're going to take this and create a new one. And we're going to say anytime that a deal has a close date that is known and that deal is in closed one. So we have officially closed the deal. Whoops, let's say stage closed one. And we're going to go ahead and trigger this deal. So again, this is a workflow. This is going to be our actions. Anything we want to do, we can copy information from one place to another. We can send information out into the web with webhooks. We can, in this case, create a new record, which is going to be a ticket record. I think it's going to ask me to upgrade again. Yep, let's do it. 14-day trial here for our sales or our service hub. And we're going to make a new ticket record, like we said. Every time there's a new deal that's closed, we're going to put the deal name, and we're going to say new customer. We're going to put that in the new ticket pipeline, and we're going to assign the ticket to Kelly. Whoops. Specific user. Here we go. Being customer service. So we'll hit save. You can add a lot more information there if you want, but this is just going to be the quick version. Hit review and publish. We're only going to do this for in the future. So there we go. That is our simple automation. The other thing we're going to do is quickly set up a form. So I'm going to come to this lead capture. I'm going to find my forms. And let's say we want to make a form for new prospects on our website. I'm going to hit this new form page. I'm going to say this is an embedded form right there. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to start with a blank template. And I'm just going to add the properties I want. So I've got email. It's already required. I'm going to put first name. I'm going to put last name. And I'm going to put company name. And that's going to be it. And then let's hit update. Ta-da! Here is my embed code. And I can paste this on any website. It does not have to be a HubSpot page. And this form is now available. Anyone who comes there, I can fill out my information. When they hit submit, this data is going to drop right into my HubSpot CRM. I'm going to be able to include it on anything that I'm working on. If we go back to our contacts, we can see all our contacts that we imported. We can see the companies that they're associated with. We can see the emails. Pretty cool stuff. Please reach out with any questions. Thanks so much for watching.